Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Hi, friends. So in last week's podcast episode, I went through the mistakes I made when I created my membership, Breakthrough Brand All Access, what it was exactly, why I wanted to create it, what was happening in my life during the creation time, the difficult decision to close it, again, the mistakes I made, all of that good stuff. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, you'll want to, for some context for this one, you can listen to them in a different order, but I would say go back to 223 because that's where I explain like what the membership is, how I launched it, the why of closing it, and things like that. But today I'm continuing that conversation with lessons I learned from starting the membership, having it for a while, and ultimately closing it. And the decision to close it was extremely difficult for me. I talked about that a bit last week, but so difficult. It felt like simple enough in some ways to fix it, like fix those mistakes I had made when I created it, and then therefore keep it. But ultimately I decided to close it, and I don't regret having started it. It was such an amazing growing and learning experience for me, and it has allowed me to help others as well. And you'll hear how and why of all that in these lessons. So here we go. These are the lessons I learned starting and closing the membership, and I have 8 total I'm going to talk through with you guys. It's funny. I started with like 4, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, there really are so many lessons from this, which again, that's why I say, like, even when I closed it, which can feel like, oh, you closed it, so therefore it was a mistake. Like, no, I learned so much. I grew my business in other ways through it, and I've been able to help more people because of what I learned. So I'm hoping that today, as you listen to these lessons, that you'll be able to apply them to your own business, whether you have a membership site or not, whether you ever want a membership site, because these apply to all things like business. Like, as you hear me talk about these, you're going to quickly realize, like, yeah, this doesn't have to do with just membership sites. It has to do with everything about running a business. So let's get to it. Okay, the first lesson I learned from starting and closing a membership. I learned that it's okay for your business to have offer gaps. It might actually be a good thing. And in addition to that, just because people want something and because it makes sense and like seems natural, whatever, does not mean you need to make it. And the biggest thing is like, it's okay for your business to have offer gaps. And no one will tell you that. Our business world is all about making sure everything aligns perfectly. And you have an offer for everyone at all their different levels in every way. Everyone that's your ideal client, at least I know we're not supposed to appeal to everyone. And that might be standard business advice that you've probably heard, but it also might not be the best thing for you and the life you're trying to build and building a sustainable business that fits into that life versus building your life around your business. So I would just want to say it's okay to have offer gaps, and sometimes more focused businesses do have offer gaps. And to go ahead and explain real quick in case you're like, wait, Elizabeth, what do you mean by an offer gap? I literally mean like when you look at your offer suite, whether that's services or products, it applies to both, that there is a gap of an audience that wants to be served with a paid offer that you're not able to serve in that particular way. So people asking you for something and it makes logical sense because there is a gap, but then you may be saying, hey, I'm okay having that offer gap. So I'll go ahead and say it though, like my business does have a bit of an offer gap, and it had for, a while before the membership, and now it is again now after the membership. But I actually have figured out that I like that gap. And maybe that's an episode for another time, but it's working well for me now, in my opinion, because I've kind of figured out like, okay, what is the direction I'm trying to take this business? And when I look at that direction, I'm like, hey, it's okay to like have that gap right now, because filling the gap is not the direction I'm trying to take the business. And maybe I'll fill those kind of gaps in the offer of like not be able to serve that group of people with paid business content in some capacity later, because I actually really do want to do some more courses. So right now I have Book.Designer, but I want to create more courses besides that one. And I also have a really like big desire in my heart to have a mastermind, which both of those things could potentially solve some of this. But for right now, I have a course that's just for designers, and I have my website templates, and I have this free podcast, and I don't have like a paid course that's like solving some other type of business problem for people, which again, I have ideas for stuff like that. But right now I'm sitting in the like, hey, it's okay not to like offer stuff that works for everyone. It's okay to just focus my attention on these things that I really love and that make a lot of sense for my business. So I learned it's okay for your business to have offer gaps. 2, I learned that people really respect you when you do hard things well. So I talked about this a little bit on last week's episode, but it was really hard to close my membership, and I struggled. It might sound silly to say this now. It feels a little silly to me, but in the moment, I struggled with thinking everyone would hate me and be disappointed in me and think I'm a horrible business owner and not trust me anymore, or just be mad. And again, it feels silly to me now that it's done, because I'm like, no, wait, of course that's not what happened. People don't care that much and no one judged me, etc. But seriously, in the moment of like when I was considering closing the membership, this narrative that everyone who was in it would be mad at me or judgmental of me, even though I knew these people like loved and respected me just like I do with them. But it still was like this fear of like disappointing people and being like looked down upon, like I'm not that good at business, or that I'm a failure and not trust me anymore. And I loved my members. Some of my favorite people like got to join this membership. I shared last week, but the membership had about 170 people in it. And so I was afraid of disappointing all those people, but that's not what happened. And I actually got so much positive feedback from members about closing it. Not like a, yay, I'm so glad this is over, I hated it. But people tend to really like it, but people were sad. But there was some clear like, man, I really like this and that stinks. But the overarching message was, I'm proud of you. Thanks for setting this example of closing something when it's not working, and the example of trying new things and being okay when they don't work out. And some of the messages I got when I closed it, like literally brought me to tears with like, oh my gosh, like this is so moving, and like good advice even given into it. Like one of the women who sent me a message is a mom of older kids now, and just sent me a really sweet message, like encouraging me in my season of motherhood even. Like it was just really, really sweet. So I think the message here, the lesson is people respect you when you do hard things well. And also I'll add to that, people are paying a lot less attention to you than you probably feel like. And I know that's like, you know, we all want to tell like a middle schooler that who thinks everyone's looking at them constantly. But I think even as in adult life as business owners, we can do that same way of thinking in some capacity, where we think everyone's paying closer attention than they actually are. And that everyone cares more than they actually do. And the truth was, although people really liked this membership, and yes, there was some disappointment, people were okay with it. And another thing that's funny about it too, I didn't share this last week, but when I closed the membership and I pivoted it to a free Facebook community, so I quit billing everyone got to stay in this free Facebook group, which now turned into a free Facebook group for all podcast listeners. You can join that at elizabethmccravey.com/Facebook. But when I did that transition, I'd never publicly announced it. So only members knew that I was closing it, and they knew very, very thoroughly. Like I sent a really thorough email, I recorded a thorough video, and I also uploaded the audio for that video into our membership podcast feed. So like I really, really communicated it strongly to members. Did not say a single thing about it on Instagram. Didn't say a single thing about it to my whole email list. I did not share anything about it on this podcast because that wasn't necessary at the time. At the time, I just needed to communicate with members. And now I'm communicating with all of you about lessons learned and stuff. But that's something just to remember, that when you close something, it doesn't have to be a big announcement to the entire world. You really just need to tell the people that were paying for it or thinking about paying for it and that sort of thing. Lesson number 3, and this is a shorter one, but I created a way better refund system for my business based on the cancellation system I created for the membership. So because memberships has so many moving pieces, like I learned a lot about like creating really good systems to kind of go with the membership and keep it running smoothly. And we ended up implementing a cancellation system that was really smooth and high quality. I think where like, when someone wanted to cancel, which we had a really good churn rate, but we obviously still had people cancel. But when they had to cancel, they filled out a form, and then we had some automations that happened after that. And then like a very clear list of things we had to do on our end to remove them as a member. One of the many things you have to figure out when you're running a membership. But I feel like the system we made was really, really strong. And actually, even when I had the membership still running, we brought that same system into other parts of the business for refund requests, because I do get refund requests every now and then for things like my course and templates, very normal part of running a business. If you've never heard it said, I'll say it now, but if you never get a single refund request, your audience is not being reached far enough. So refund requests are not a bad thing. You just don't want it to be a really high request rate. But anyway, before I used to just handle that just over email. So now we changed the way we do those refund requests after having Breakthrough Brand All Access, and we changed it for the better. It's way more streamlined, easier to track, easier to communicate, and easier to collect customer feedback of like why they wanted the refund in the first place. So we haven't had to use the new system too much because, again, I don't get tons of refund requests, but when we have used it, I've really like enjoyed seeing the feedback and understanding like why someone is requesting this. So that was a really cool part of the membership. So bringing like a better technical system in because of what I had to learn from running a membership. Okay, number 4, I learned, this is a big one. I learned that I don't like to sell people to keep buying the same thing from me month over month over month over month. So basically, I did not like having to sell people to stay in the membership. And that's all a mentality, right? Like you're knowing that like, hey, you joined for 1 month, but you might quit. You might not join the next month. You might not join the next month. And like, that's something I feel like people don't talk about enough with memberships. So memberships are like such a hot thing right now. I feel like for the past few years, it's been a major pitch that people give for a way to make recurring revenue in your business. Some people even call it passive income, which y'all, memberships are like not passive income at all. If you're running a membership that is like a good membership, it is not passive. You are actively doing work. Maybe it's less work than what I was doing, but you're still actively doing work. Selling something like an online course can maybe feel a little bit more passive, but like memberships are not. But they are recurring revenue, okay? Because people are paying for it every month. But again, they might cancel. They can cancel at any month. So just because I got their payment 1 month doesn't mean they're going to stay in it the next month. It doesn't mean they're going to stay in it the next year even. And that's totally normal. And that's not a bad thing that people, get what they need from something and then they leave. But I felt like the pressure of selling everyone to stay in it. And I realized that I prefer the recurring revenue model of other types of digital products instead. So things like templates and courses, that is more of my style, where they have purchased it and agreed to pay for it, but then they are on a payment plan, because that also is recurring revenue. And that's what I'm saying. Like, people talk about memberships as like, this is the end all be all, the best kind of recurring revenue. But courses and templates and other types of digital products, whether it's like, an ebook you're selling, I mean, there's so many different types, but those also can be recurring revenue if you're letting people do payment plans, which payment plans help people make the buying decision a lot of the time. If they don't feel like they have the funds all up front, payment plans are super helpful, and that creates a recurring revenue system. You might have to hunt down payments when people's credit cards fail or they try to bail on payments and things like that, but it still is a form of recurring revenue. It's just a form where the person has agreed to pay, which is really nice, and where there is a clear end date, whether it be a 4-month payment plan, a 12-month payment plan, whatever it is, but it's still recurring revenue. And I have a very big amount of recurring revenue in my business every month because of payment plans. So I'm used to that, right? I'm used to also payments failing. All of that stuff was not new to me with starting a membership. But what was new to me was like feeling like, oh yeah, I got to sell people to stay in it another month. And I didn't really like that feeling. I liked feeling like, hey, I've made the product. It's amazing. I'm delivering it to you. You have everything now. And now you are on your payment plan. So basically the concept of like, I like creating things and then being done selling them. And once it's created, like it's done being created. And it's like, that's that. Like I created it. Now it's done being created. And once it's sold to someone, it's done being sold to someone. They've bought it and that's it. And a membership is like the opposite of all that. Like you're constantly creating, first of all, and you're constantly selling current people to stay in it. and you're constantly trying to get new people to join. And I didn't like that feeling. And some of you listening who have memberships might be like, Elizabeth, you're getting it all wrong. It's not like that. And that might be true of you. That's just how I felt, at least in my own membership experience. And in comparison to other types of digital products, so I've done digital products for years. Like that's not new to me, but the membership was new. And so I know, again, everyone's membership experience is different. And that's not even me. As I share that, I want to make sure you guys know I'm not trying to talk people out of doing memberships, but you can tell probably from the way I'm talking about that I don't particularly feel like, oh yeah, that's the business model I'm so obsessed with. It's not. I like the other stuff I do way better. So I'm not trying to convince you not to do it, but it is things to think about. Like, don't just hear people say like, you can get this many people in, it's this much money a month forever, because that's not how it is. And I knew that's not how it is. But again, I did not like selling people to keep buying it month over month. Like I did not like that feeling. I didn't like it. So that is that. And again, other people might have different experiences with that, and that's fine. Okay, lesson number 5. And this was a really big lesson that I hope I can communicate well for you guys. So I learned the value of not doing things alone and leaning on your team, on friends, on family, on other people in general. So I had a team who had worked with me when I started the membership, right? I have a little core team, and I have other contractors I work with as well. And I still have a team now, although we've added people and had people go in the last like 8 or 9 months since the membership started. But in my creating of the membership, like I wasn't alone or anything, okay? So just know I'm saying that, which I highly don't recommend doing things like that completely alone because it's a lot of work. But once I really got the membership started, I was like, SOS, I need help. Like this is like so much to manage. And if you listen to last week's episode, you heard me share all that was included, and you might understand why. Like that was a lot to do. I was doing a coaching call every month, another type of call where it's members like networking together. I started out doing 4 pieces of content a month plus a 5th longer form piece of content for members. We also had a Facebook group I was active in. And then in addition to that, I have other offers. I have a template shop, and I have my course Booked.Designer, where I also do coaching calls with Booked.Designer students. I didn't say that last week, but that's something that is an ongoing thing once you buy the course Booked.Designer that you get. So I just had a lot going on. But immediately after starting the membership, my customer support manager, Stacy, who's just absolutely amazing. We've been working together for years now, but she stepped up big time, and it was like such a natural fit. And I cried to her probably a few times of just like thankfulness for helping me and helping me think through this and like being a listening ear, being someone else that was like in it with me. So even like on the week it launched, before she was helping more with the membership, she felt how overwhelming it was for her of like, just, it's just a normal thing, right? Like when you launch something big, again, we had about 170 people join immediately that whole first week, which was only 5 days. And then we also had other people inquiring about it who didn't join. So just tons and tons of emails, tons and tons of Instagram messages. And then once the people were in, there was some like, wait, my link's not working. I can't find this. I need this thing. I have this question. And so which is all normal. So no one did anything wrong in that. That's just like what happens with a big launch. But she was like, we were receiving all these messages, right? And so she sent me a voice message on Voxer, which is what we used back then for some of our team communication. Now we use Slack and Slack voice messaging. But anyway, she sent me a Voxer checking in on me and expressed that she was also overwhelmed. And so she's like, I'm looking at all this and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Like, I know you must be too. And I was feeling really overwhelmed. It was like this strange mix of like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm so excited. Like all these people I get to serve, and this has gone better than I thought it would. And I was still really overwhelmed at the same time. I was like, can I do this? This is a lot. This is a lot of people to serve. Wait, this offering a ton. I don't have time for all this. Like I was being hit by a lot of things. And she helped me not feel crazy for being overwhelmed. And so anyway, through all that and just like early stage of the membership, she got a new position change like within the business. And we added, in addition to customer support, her role being community manager within the membership. So she was helping me on coaching calls, helping with the Facebook group management, helping me brainstorm ideas for changing the things that we needed fixing that I talked about last week's episode with mistakes. She was helping with customers who were emailing that, you know, they need help getting their podcast feed, or they have this question, they want additional help, and all that kind of stuff. So Stacy was there with me through all of it. And y'all, Stacy was my hero. Like I always knew that she was amazing. Like ever since we first started working together. And again, we've been together for years now. And in communication, her working in my business. And The membership though took us to a new level, and I got to see her work in a different way and like see her like super strategic mind like come into action of like solving the different problems and also just loving on the customers and loving on me. And she truly was my hero, and it felt like she was in it with me, and that was really helpful. And that's a big part of what I'm saying. Like if you're going through something difficult in your business, like a difficult decision or an offer that's not going how you hoped, it's so helpful having someone else in there with you who's helping you and being like a second set of eyes on things, a set of ears, like all of that. And I really just don't think I could have done it without her. So shout out to Stacey for being such a huge help in all that. And if you know Stacey, you love her. She's one of the greatest people. And if you've ever emailed me, if you're a customer and or if you're a potential customer and you've emailed like a question to our hello email or support email, you probably have emailed with Stacey and gotten to see like how amazing and friendly she is. So if you know, you know. But I learned the value of like, again, not doing things alone, leaning on other people. And that was like the first time I had to like do that really intensely in my business. So that was a really good and fun lesson for me. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Hey, interrupting this episode real quick to tell you something new. If you haven't checked out my Show It template shop lately, you need to. There have been a lot of new templates added, including tons of cool add-ons. In my shop, you'll find new sales page templates, a speaker add-on template with pages to pitch yourself as a speaker, and a media kit, a quiz template for building awesome quizzes as lead magnets, my landing page bundle with over 15 landing pages for growing your email list, and tons more. So these add-ons can be added to any Show It site with ease. And then there's also the all-new Casey template and Carrie template too if you need a full website template. Both of those are totally gorgeous and really unique from each other and worth checking out. So check it all out at elizabethmccravey.com/shop and use the code BBPodcast for 10% off your purchase. That's elizabethmccravey.com/shop. Now back to the episode. Okay, I've got 3 more lessons to share with you. So I learned, number 6, that it's not about the money for me and that recurring revenue isn't everything. So I kind of already touched on this one a little bit, but I want to talk about it in a bit of a different way. So I was truly hit with the decision, and again, I've already talked about this, but like, do I keep this membership going because it's a good source of income that can be tinkered with to make more sense and to be a better offer, and that people are liking it. So like, should I keep it? Or do I let the money go, that recurring revenue, and close it completely, potentially disappoint people, make things feel really complicated? And I think a lot of people, and I know this because I talked to some of these people, would tell you to keep it going, even as it is, because it's a good source of revenue and you can change a few things to make it make more sense. You can go up on the price and you can make it work. And like, why close something that many people are paying for? Like you have this many people paying for, you shouldn't close it. That's silly. That's not thinking like strategic like a business owner. Like I got some of that kind of advice. I also had plenty of people who were like, hey, if you don't like it, close it. But it's hard to make that kind of decision. And ultimately, like, even though I could tinker with it, I didn't want to, and I didn't think it was a great offer. That was one of the mistakes I made. It just wasn't a great offer. And I also was like, when people are saying, Elizabeth, recurring revenue, like, isn't that the best? I'm like, recurring revenue isn't everything. It's not free money, even though, again, I was saying this already, but like people say it's passive, like memberships. It's not passive. Recurring revenue also isn't passive when you're doing stuff for it every month. So anyway, I don't buy into the idea that recurring revenue is the solution to all things in business. And also there are ways to have recurring revenue without a membership. It's called payment plans on a product someone buys and is agreeing to continue paying for until their payment plan's complete. Okay. So like if you are someone who's like, I want recurring revenue, like that's a way to do it. Another way to do it is to like let your clients be on a payment plan. That you're getting hit with the money every month. Like it's not everything. Another way to deal with it is like, let yourself not have recurring revenue. Let yourself have months that are way bigger and then months that are way smaller and save the money. So you're not paying everything out every month when you make a lot of money. And then on the months where you make less money, you're supporting yourself from the previous months. Like that's just, there's all these other ways. So anyway, I think people over glamorize the concept of recurring revenue. And by recurring revenue, I mean like the payment plan. This person is subscribing to this and they are agreeing that they are paying for it, every single month. That's what I mean. I don't mean like making money consistently through like digital products. That's different. But anyway, I learned it's not all about the money for me, which I already knew that, but I really, really saw that play out in this decision, which again, a lot of people were telling me, don't close it, Elizabeth. That doesn't make sense when I was asking for advice from people on this. So I got a lot of good clarity on like what's important to me through that. Okay, lesson 7, and this was a huge one. I learned the importance of being very focused in your business goals and in your business vision. And this one's vulnerable to share. I almost did not include this one, but here we are. So these are vulnerable episodes. But I think I lost some vision and focus in my business during that time, which again, I don't love sharing that with you guys. But I think that's what happened. And I had all these ideas, right? I had the idea for the membership, and I was kind of idea hopping. And the membership was a version of an idea I'd had for years. So it was not like a new concept to me. It's not like one day I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a membership, boom. But it was like a concept of an idea I'd had for a long time. And I just like decided like, that's what I'm going with. But the question I should have been asking was it the right thing for that season of my business? In that season of my life? And I think the answer on both is that ultimately it was a distraction, especially in the business front. In the life front, it was more like, this just does not fit into your life right now. If you listen to last week's episode, you heard me say that because I just had a lot going on personally when I launched the membership. But I think ultimately in business, it was a bit of a distraction. Again, that does not mean I regret doing it. It does not mean I do not love the members who were in it, but it was not what I should have been doing. It was a distraction from the areas of my business I should have been pouring my energy into. And I wasn't pouring as much energy into those areas, not because I don't like them. I actually love them. But I think it's like this interesting thing of like, I can get bored with things just being simple and going well. So like from my perspective, my template shop, which I sell Show It templates, if you didn't know that, that was going great. Sales consistently. People are loving the templates. We had all of our systems figured out really well. And Book.Designer, which is my course for designers, teaching you how to build an in-demand business, like the business side of running a brand and website design business. Both of those were going great. Like I had the funnel set up. People were buying both consistently. I was doing launches of new things. Like it felt really easy. And in addition to that, even like this podcast can like feel like, oh yeah, it's all just working well. It's not necessarily easy, but it's like, there's nothing like super new happening. And so I'm like, let's start something new. Woohoo, that sounds fun. Sounds exciting. Like, why not? When in the reality is, with the type of business I have, stable and consistent income from digital products is great. And it's not a sign that you need to like go add something else. It's a sign to either like take a break and be like, hey, I'm going to work less right now and let these things like run and just let the business run. And I'm going to like step back a little bit and like let the systems work. Let all of it do its thing. or to work on improving what's already there, work on improving marketing for what's already there. And those are the things I should have been doing. But instead, I'd lost a bit of vision. I was getting a little bit of shiny object syndrome, I think, as well. Of like, oh, that sounds so exciting. It sounds so fun. Because again, it did. Like I was thrilled launching the membership, and the idea, if you ever heard me talk about it, it was like, this is like what I'm meant to do. Like I was so pumped about it, but I think I'd lost the overarching business vision and lost my focus. So on episode 207 of this podcast, so a little while ago though, if you never listened to that one, you should listen to it though, but I shared lessons I'd learned for my 7-year business anniversary. And one of the lessons, actually two of the lessons really related a lot to this membership, but one in particular I want to talk about that relates a lot to this point. So I had heard James Clear say this quote. He's an author of Atomic Habits, but I heard him say this on Tim Ferriss's podcast. And he said, success generates opportunities and distractions. And another quote from James Clear in that episode was, you get good at something. He was continuing to flesh out this idea. So he said, you get good at something, so that brings new opportunities your way. You turn around 6 months later and you don't have time to do the thing that made you successful. Like, that feels like a version, another way to say it, of like what this membership did. It was like, I was like, oh, things are going well. I have this opportunity. I can make a membership. I really think people will join. I really think I'll enjoy it. And I did it, but it was ultimately a distraction. And then it was like, I got good at templates. I got good at Booked Out Designer, and it brought opportunities. And then I'm like, I not have as much time for these other things now. So anyway, that was some of how I described some of how I feel about the membership. It was an opportunity and a distraction. Like I really truly think it was both. Like it was a great opportunity, but it also was ultimately a distraction for me. And I think often we think about like the first 1 to 3 years of our business as the time where we're doing all these new things and trying so many things, and like the business is shifting a ton. But this also can happen later for good reasons and bad reasons. Maybe you do change like what you want to do in your business when you're 7 years, 8 years, 9 years in. Like that's very normal. But it can also happen later if you're in a bad way, if you're not defining what you're doing clearly enough and you don't have enough of a clear vision. So like I had a vision with the membership and I knew what it was going to be. I knew what the offer was. I wrote copy. I got excited. I had all the plans, but it wasn't super clear and it didn't fit well with the other elements of my business and the life I wanted. That's the biggest thing. So now this year in 2023, since I closed the membership last year, I closed it like in October of last year. So it's been a few months since it closed and also a while since it first opened because I did have it for a few months. Now, since I closed the membership though, I'm more focused. You might even can tell that from the outside looking into my business. I've launched at least 6 new templates this year already, maybe more. I kind of can get confused in my head a little bit of like, wait, what launched in December? What launched in January? But I've been creating and launching lots of new templates. I redesigned the showcase page for my template shop, which is a page of my website where it shows customer sites. And we made that like a totally cool new organized system there. I've been doing more collaborations. I've been doing more speaking. I've hired 2 team members this year. I've added new things to Booked Out Designer. Like it's all just become more focused. And so my best advice with any new idea, so maybe as you're listening to this, you have this idea for something new you want to add to your business that you're like debating when's the right time. I would just ask yourself if this is focused towards your overall business goals or not. And think about your business goals also with your life goals. Your business and life are not separate when you're an entrepreneur. Like it is separate things. You are not your business and all that stuff. I know that's all very true. But what you do in your work affects the life you are living outside of work. So think about both those things and ask yourself, is this focused towards my overall business goals or is it not? And if you can't answer that, if you're like, I don't know, maybe it fits in, maybe it doesn't, it could fit in, maybe your goals aren't clear enough. I don't know your exact situation, but it's possible that your goals aren't clear enough. So I would encourage you to like get really clear on the goals so that you can know if this fits in or not. And again, you're taking not just the business goals, but also thinking about your life goals and how things fit into it. And something else that's so helpful to remember, like not right now doesn't mean not ever. So you waiting on something because you're like, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mom part-time and don't really have time for this. Or like you're in a season of life where you're still working a 9 to 5 and you're also trying to juggle your business. Saying no to this new offer idea does not mean you're never going to do it. It just means like, hey, I'm going to like wait on that a while longer until it makes sense for the season of my life, or until maybe in your business, until you built up this other offer more. Like there's so much there. So get clear on your goals. And that was something I was struggling with. And I'm sure you guys can relate to. Maybe you've had seasons of business where you feel like you've lost some of the vision, but I definitely got my vision back. And something I've shared a few times on the podcast is this year I have 3 words of the year. They all start with T's, little alliteration happening there. And those are my 3 words of the year for my business. And I have a different word of the year for my personal life. But I made a rule for myself this year after the membership experience last year that if something does not fit in to these 3 words, I'm not doing it this year. So if this business idea, maybe it's a new offer, maybe it's a new kind of promotion, whatever it is, a new thing to try. If it does not fit into these 3 words, I'm not doing it. And as I'm sitting right here at my desk, I look straight ahead past my laptop and those 3 words are written on my dry erase board plus my personal word for the year. So literally while I'm sitting and working, I see those words constantly. And when I have new ideas, it is I'm evaluating, does it fit into these 3 words or not? And that has been a huge focusing for me because yes, I am an entrepreneur at heart and a creative at heart as well. And so I get tons of business ideas all the time that I could try to do now or wait. And so it's been helpful to me to look at those 3 words and be does it fit into those or not? And again, it doesn't mean I'm never going to do it, but if it doesn't fit into these words, I'm not doing it right now. So that's something helpful for yourself too, to try if you really need more focus. Because I do struggle with thinking 10 plus years into the future of my business. And I don't think that's abnormal if you can't know exactly what you want your business to look like 10 years from now. But I can know what I want my business to look like right now. And these 3 words are helping guide me with that. So anyway, that's a little tangent there, but I learned the importance of being very focused in your business goals and vision. Okay, my very last lesson I wanted to share, and this is one that you might be able to relate to. So I didn't like selling access to myself as a big part of an offer. So that is a thing that plenty of business owners do. Masterminds are common, that's a common element of a mastermind. It's a common element of one-on-one coaching. Anyway, selling access to you is a thing. Plenty of people do it. I feel like selling access to yourself is not sustainable as an offer model. And that's a problem a lot of personal brands run into where they are their business and what they are selling is them. Again, whether it's group coaching, mastermind, one-on-one coaching, Voxer access, all of those kinds of things, you're often seeing some of that play out, maybe not fully, but sometimes when the offer is so heavy set on people are buying access to you, access to your brain, access to your opinions, it can get really overwhelming. And when I see people with personal brand businesses wrap up and close their entire business, which happens all the time, no shame in doing that. But if they were doing any type of coaching, and you hear them talk about why they closed their business, this is often one of the reasons they're closing it in so many words. They might not say directly, I didn't like selling access to me, but they say things like they were tired of feeling like they were selling themselves. They were tired of people just wanting more and more access, having more and more questions, giving more and more and more, and being such a front-facing part of their business where they are the business. It's really overwhelming. It's not sustainable, and it is exhausting feeling like people are buying you and then worried you're going to disappoint them. So I wanted to clarify too, the offer of my membership was way more than access to me. So it was not, which that is again a real thing people sell. I see it all the time where there's programs out there and it's there's no real framework, there's not much content, and really what you're doing is buying proximity to this person who's a business owner who you're wanting to learn from. So that was not what my thing was. It was not just access to me, but that was a piece of it. And it was even in the name of it, Breakthrough Brand All Access. It was in that name. And ultimately, again, I think it can work for some people in some ways. And I think the way I modeled the membership could have worked for my business, but it didn't work for me personally. So it's because the membership again was way more than just access to me. But ultimately, I'm an introvert. And I don't like having tons of people ask me questions all the time. And I like to do things on my own timing and schedule. And I didn't like the feeling like people were buying access to me, which again feels vulnerable to share. Because I don't want any of you guys in the membership to think I didn't love having you there, because I absolutely did. And maybe saying didn't like isn't the right way to phrase it, but more so that it was overwhelming to me of this is hard and scary, and I'm worried I'm going to disappoint people. It's a lot of pressure is another way to put it. I liked having people there who were interested in learning from me in that way, but it felt like a lot of pressure. So something to consider when you make your offers of like, is the access to you a really big part of it? Is it not? How big a part of it do you want to be? All that kind of stuff. Good things to think about. So I'm going to run through these lessons one more time to wrap us up. And then I have a few other thoughts for closing. So first lesson, I learned that it's okay for your business to have offer gaps. I learned that people respect you when you do hard things well. Number 3, I learned / created a better way to do refunds for my business based on the cancellation system for the membership. 4, I learned that I do not like to sell people to keep buying the same thing from me month over month. 5, I learned the value of not doing things alone and leaning on your team. 6, I learned that recurring revenue is not everything. 7, I learned the importance of being very focused in your business goals and vision. And 8, I learned that it was really exhausting to me to like sell access to myself as like part of an offer. So that's it. Those are the big lessons I learned. And thank you for, again, I said this last week, thank you for holding space though, for me to talk about all this. I enjoy processing it with you and like getting all these lessons and thoughts out. And I really just hope and pray that this helps someone, like that it helps you in whatever it is you're creating your business, that there was some little like nugget here in what I shared that's going to help you make a different decision, make a good decision in your business, get clarity on something, whatever it is. So yeah, I hope it helped you. Let me know, send me a message or write a podcast review and let me know if this episode helped you in any way. And I want to encourage you to join the free Facebook community. Again, this is what the memberships was part of the membership. And now it's a free Facebook community that anyone can join. So to elizabethmccravey.com/Facebook will redirect you to that group. And you can just request to join. I'll let you in. But we have good conversations about the podcast episodes and all kinds of people posting constantly like different business questions. So it's a great place to ask your business questions in a place where people are actually going to like respond and give feedback. So it's a really great group. And let me know too, if you want more membership content, because I actually had a whole nother outline that was like, I'm going to save it for another date because I don't want to do 3 weeks of membership stuff in a row, but it's all about, that episode concept is like all about how to close something well. And I was just going to talk about my experience closing the membership and how I did it and the decisions with like people who paid in full and all that kind of stuff. So like, let me know if that's interesting to you and I can record that one to be an episode soon. So anyway, that's it. I'll be back next week, this time next week with a guest interview that you guys are really, really going to love, a really helpful conversation about content marketing. So be sure to come back for that and I'll talk to y'all then. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast and all the way until the end. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to encourage you to check out my website where you'll find tons of resources to help you grow a profitable and sustainable business. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find free workbooks to help you figure out things like the best headline for your sales page. There's a freebie with my favorite journal prompts to start your day with, a guide on website essentials for all you coaches, and so much more. And you'll find my top business tools. Yes, I literally list out all the major ones for you on my website, and there are tons of special discounts and offers for you guys to snag as you try these products and services. You'll also find the main ways to work with me. First, through my Show It website template shop that helps you DIY your way to a strategic website for your business. These website templates are easy to use, they're gorgeously designed, and they have all the strategy I'm teaching on this podcast just woven into them, and I have a feeling you'll really love them. You'll also find my course and coaching program for designers, Booked Out Designer. In this program, I teach you everything I did to build an in-demand design business so that you can create a thriving business for yourself as a brand or website designer. So if all of that interests you, go to elizabethmccravey.com. To access those tools and free downloads, head to the tools page at elizabethmccravey.com/tools. And to see the different ways to work with me, simply click over to the Ways to Work Together page. I hope you have so much fun exploring everything over there. And don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And leaving a rating and review for the show, sharing it with a friend, sharing it on social media are all great ways for you to support this podcast. Thanks so much, and I'll see you again next week.